So, welcome back to Talking Around the Library Tree. Joining us under the branches is none other than Andrew Barker, the Library Director here at Lancaster University. Andrew brings a wealth of library experience to the table, with a library career spanning from library assistants to directors and everything in between.
Indeed.
But let's not spoil the surprise. I'll let Andrew tell us exactly how many years ago the library journey began a little later. Andrew is a fan of Sunderland Football Club, who even knew they had one. And
I think quite a few people knew we had one. Thank you very much.
Not from a rugby town, I'm from a rugby town. And has a huge love of film, music and books, and has recently organised a celebration of the musical history of the Great Hall era at Lancaster University, which was a success.
It was a success and we hope to do more.
Maybe we'll talk about that as well. So settle in and get ready for a fascinating conversation about all things library or not. I'm excited to see where this conversation takes us, Andrew.
Me too.
So welcome.
Well, thank you. Joy to be here.
Thank you for agreeing
it's
to
a
be here.
fantastic initiative. I love that we're doing these podcasts.
Yeah, I think we're getting more out there, aren't we?
Absolutely.
So, Andrew, I'd like you to tell us and the listeners a little bit more about your role and how you came to work in the libraries.
In libraries as a sector?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start with that. I'll start with my history. So it is frighteningly 30 years ago this month since I started in libraries. I graduated from the University of Hull with a sociology degree and I was planning to be a teacher. My then girlfriend was doing a PhD at UCL and was living in Guildford, and so I wanted to be down there, applied for a few jobs because I wanted to take a year out before I did a teaching qualification, and got a job as a library assistant for Surrey Libraries in what I would say walking library with my northeast accent, but others would say working library. And being a music fan, that was quite exciting because it was the home of the Jam, Paul Weller.
Oh, okay.
So my first job was a library assistant, Surrey Libraries, based in Woking, lived in Guildford and Woking, and I did, I was on the issue desk, on the return desk, shelved books, looked after overdues, had a lot of fun, really nice experience, fell in love with libraries because I liked answering queries. I used to watch the librarians answering queries. This is pre-internet. And I thought, I want to do that. It felt a bit detective work like. So I gave up the idea of being a teacher and did a library course at the University of Northumbria. I then went back to Surrey for a bit. Then I worked for Hounslow Libraries in West London as an assistant librarian. Probably the most exciting part of that was I used to buy the large print books and go through the large print books physically on a Friday morning, choosing what we'd have. And of course, the part that was really exciting, I'd buy the Mills and Boon large print books.
Andrew.
So I would select what the people of Hounslow would read in large print romance novels and became a bit of an expert for a time.
In Mills and Boon?
In Mills and Boon, yes. Yeah, I knew the colours and what, each colour was, was a hospital or how racy it was.
Yes. They have colours? I didn't know
the colours
that.
of the books have different meanings. And then I think it's the green or the blue was medical. And then I left public libraries. I love public libraries, but I didn't really feel like it was going to be a career for me. And we wanted to move near, so I was with my wife by that point, who I'd met at library school at Northumbria. And we wanted to be near parents and start family. So we looked at either Norfolk, where her parents lived, or Sunderland, where I'm from. I was keen to go to Sunderland, so of course what happened was I got a job in Norwich, in an FE college, City College Norwich, where I worked between 2000 and 2008. I ended up being the manager of the library. It was fine. It was hard work. I mean, unless you've worked in FE, and I know you have, Louise, you don't know what not having any money is, not having any staff is. It's really hard work. You do everything, from opening up to being on the desk to kind of dealing with people being unhappy to working with the principal. Hard work. So I did that for 4 years, and then I saw a job at UEA and at the University of East Anglia. That's where my career, I feel, really began. So I became head of library academic services. Absolutely loved it. Best boss I've ever had. Nick Lewis was my director. Really encouraging, really supportive, and I stayed there. I would have stayed there forever, but I was sick of the south. I'm not really, I'm a northerner, and I feel instinctively northern. So I got a job at the University of Liverpool, where I was responsible for academic liaison, special collections and archives. UEA had been really big, because UEA I was responsible for faculty librarians, all the content, all the research support, all the special collections and archives and all the systems. So that was a huge job. There was only me, the head of customer services and the director. So that gave me a lot of background. So I went to Liverpool, then I went to LGMU as deputy librarian. And then in 2019, I was really lucky enough to get the job here at Lancaster, which I adore. Probably worth telling you what I do then in my job.
Yeah, but it sounds like your ambition started right at the beginning when you was library assistant.
To be a director.
Yeah.
Do you know, funny enough, no.
Did you not?
No, I don't think I was confident enough to be ambitious. I didn't think... I think a couple of things. I didn't think it looked like me. I thought I'm working class from the northeast. I'm quite flippant. I've got a sense of humour. I remember saying to a boss, I'll never be a manager. I'm too flippant. And so I didn't see the kind of leadership skills that I think I do have, that I just didn't see them for years. And my mum said to me, not that long ago, you know, she didn't think I was ambitious, and then suddenly I was. I think going to UEA really shaped me, and it made me really confident. But that's that support of somebody really good, telling you you're good, yes, and working with you. That's the game changer. Saying, you know, you can do this. And until somebody tells you that, you don't really maybe open yourself up to it. So no, I don't think I was ambitious. It was quite late. I was probably late 30s, early 40s before the time I thought I can do this. But I then definitely became ambitious. Ambitious to do good stuff though, not to be a director for the sake of being a director. Being a director because I've got a real passion for what libraries are capable of doing, and it's quite a challenging time for libraries. So making the case at a senior level, you think libraries are this, but libraries are much more than just a traditional service. We provide a brilliant service, but what we can do for this university. So I think my ambition came late, and it came tied to doing good stuff. And maybe that's because it came late. I didn't start out with a big career plan.
Okay. So tell us a little bit of what does it mean? What does it mean to be a director? You just hinted, but what does it really mean?
Yeah, well, I always say that you break it down, being a director, into 3 bits. And the bit that most people inside the library and outside the library will think, I always say, is what my job is. I always say it's the tip of the iceberg. So what I don't do is manage the library. I've got fantastic managers and associate directors. You, for example, Louise, is a head of. You know, I don't need to manage the library. You do that incredibly effectively. My job, I say, is to create a culture and behaviour and a vision. So I feel really passionate. It's about the way I talk to people, because that behaviour, then people learn behaviours from a director and how they can communicate and what the culture's like. So I feel quite strongly that my role in the library way is not managing the library, but carry it. You know, the book stops with me, and that's my responsibility. If things go wrong, it's my responsibility. I own that. I ought to have a problem with that. If things go well and we're doing brilliantly, that's us, not me. It's us. So my first role is tip of the iceberg, leading the library, the vision and the culture, working in partnership with colleagues to do that. Second part is internal within the university. So I play quite a central and senior role within the university in a number of ways. I'm on the Professional Services Executive Group, which is chaired by Nicola Owen. I attend Research Committee, Education Committee, Student Experience Committee. I work really closely with PVCs, with deans. Relationships are really important, and it's about making sure that if they think of me with a smile and that I'm a positive influence on what's happening elsewhere, they think about the library in that way. Because I personify the library for people who maybe don't use it that often at a senior level. And what I love about Lancaster is we're really well plugged in as a library. We are seen, we're not hidden further down the structures, and we're recognised as doing different and fantastic things because of the work that our colleagues do. So that's the second part. I also do a lot of things like staff disciplinaries, student disciplinaries, all the kind of the kind of some of the detail of the less fun sides of working in a university. But it's a privilege, that part. Third part is the external part of the world. So I'm co-chair of SCONL, which is the National University Libraries body. I used to chair UKSG, which is publishers and librarians group who work together, have fantastic conferences and do a lot through the year. So I've always taken my sector role really seriously. I mean, it's quite hard work, and of course a lot of that's invisible, but it's good fun. You get a lot out of it. And I'm obviously part of the N8, the 8 Northern Research Intensive Universities, and I work quite closely with the directors at the other 7, which are Newcastle, Durham, York, Leeds, Sheffield, Manchester, Liverpool, and ourselves. I said Sheffield, so 8 of us. So the sector part's really big and important to make sure we're getting the right deals, that we're visible. In the library world, libraries need to be visible to demonstrate we're doing interesting things and to show off the great work you and colleagues across the library are doing to make sure people see how wonderful this library is. And I can support that shouting externally. So they're the 3 parts of my role. Each of them different, but each of them quite exciting, and you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I'm senior incident officer 1 week every 8, so if something happens in the university, I'm immediately kind of the incident chair of action to tackle whatever's gone wrong. And you know, that can be a big deal responsibility-wise, but I enjoy it because it's different. So I enjoy the breadth, and there's a lot of breadth.
And a lot of that, of what you've just said, is about building that relationship, isn't it? So all 3 of those, how you've broken it down, is all that.
Huge about relationships.
Building those relationships. And same as you say, that positivity, that shows us in a positive light.
Absolutely. This university, I've worked at 4 universities, as I've said. This university is built on relationships because of its size. And it's a huge part of my role. I do have a lot of coffee with people in the cafe, and that's always built around work. But it's about people are much more open and honest than over a cup of coffee than if you have them in your office over a formal meeting. So I take the relationship side really seriously. If you build them, develop them, but either side needs something, it's easier conversation if you know each other well. So relationships hugely important as a director.
So when I get introduced to new people and they go, oh, what do you do for a living? I go, I'm a librarian. And they go, oh, shh. Then I try very hard not to roll my eyes. So what is the common misunderstanding, do you think, about your role?
I think a lot of people think I manage a library. I think the funniest funniest thing I was ever asked is when one of my wife's friends who we've not seen for years, my wife's from Surrey, so we were down in Surrey about 2 years ago, and her friend, who's also, they're both called Charlotte, was asking me about my job, and I was explaining it, and she just couldn't get her head around what she did. She was like, but my friend's a librarian and she orders books. It's like, yeah, I don't order books. So I think that the misconception is people think of a library like a public library and think about what they see. I mean, we all have it. Whenever you've got somebody who comes into work on a work experience in the library and they come in the back office, they can't believe how varied it is. But the word library is both a positive and a negative, and like everybody understands it and sees it generally as a force of good. Negative is people have an idea of what they think it is, and it's not what that is anymore. So people assume I do things that I don't, and sometimes I explain, and then I just see their eyes shut down, and I just think, yeah. But I'm proud. I love being a librarian. You don't have to have a library qualification to be a director or do a lot of roles in libraries. But I'm very proud that I am, from almost cradle, a librarian. And I'm very passionate about what we do and the influence of what we do. Best experience I ever had was going to New York. I was invited to join an advisory board for IEEE, so I flew in to JFK and I'm stood waiting to go through immigration. Now, if you've ever flown into the States, it's awful. Immigration's awful. I just watched this security person on the desk just giving everybody a hard time. I thought, God, this is going to be awful, because I can be a bit chippy. And so I got to the front and she looks at me and says, why are you here? And I said, I'm here on business. What do you do? I'm a librarian. And she just warmed up, and it was like, she went, oh, I love libraries.
Yeah.
So, we're a force for good, and people do recognise that.
I think that is true, because sometimes, people go, oh, and they start telling you all the love of books and everything like that. And then you've got the other side of it where people are just like, what is it that you actually do?
Because they can't get into it, because the complexity of what we do and the kind of, relationships, for instance, people don't understand why. And now do you need to show people how to use books and information? And then you ask them, how much do you think our information costs? I always ask people on open days, how much do you think our content budget is a year? And they guess something like £50. And I might not necessarily name it here, but it's a lot of money, and it's a long way from £500,000. Some people saying, and it's still a long way beyond that. So there's a not quite an understanding of what we do sometimes, but that's great because we can educate them.
Yeah, and that's true. One of my friend's husbands actually said to me quite recently, "Is there actually a need for librarians these days?" And I was like,
What did you say?
I was like, well, actually, yes, there is. You only know this sector, but there's all these other sectors that exist. And people, same as you say, only relate librarians to public libraries.
Absolutely. And love them because of their childhood experiences or what they do, you know, for themselves, you know, if they've got children or if they've borrowed books. But I think you're right. And I always say we had a dark night in the soul 20 years ago, 25 years ago. The internet comes along. What is the point of libraries? We've really worked hard to develop and repurpose and reshape what we do. You know, we've had £1 million in research money come into this library over the last couple of years for spaces, for staff. You don't get that because you run a service, just a service. You get that because you work in partnership with researchers. We've taken our old skills and old knowledge to create new opportunities. And that's why this time is the most exciting point in my career to be in libraries, because we have demonstrated we can adapt to change, bring it on, we can do different things, and put the library right at the front of this university's community, which is where we are. And I think we would have struggled. I had a colleague who said to me, God, we might just about make it to retirement before libraries are finished. No one's saying that now.
No.
We're in a very different place.
And we've got Gen AI, so again,
we're
developing
Bring
again
it on.
now.
Exactly.
You know,
So, Bring it on.
I like to think that we're a developing profession. We're very flexible, we're very adaptable, and we're able to develop ourselves and others.
Absolutely. And we are so early. I mean, you mentioned Gen AI. We are always so early to things. Pandemic, we were able to respond really quickly because we had a lot of digital in place already. Lots of places around the university didn't. So you're right, we adapt to new opportunities.
We see those opportunities, don't we? We grab them. So, you know, there's lots of things going on in the world at the moment. What do you think your biggest challenge in your role right now is?
Well, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, you know, without being too depressing, I think the sector challenge we've got in terms of finances and so the sector challenge we've got in terms of culture and finance, I think, without getting too political about things, which I'll try not to, it was very hard being within a university when too often we were seen as being a bit of the enemy. We were all woke, and we were offering rip-off degrees, and we were all people who just turned up and very liberal and didn't really know what we were doing. It felt personal, and the way immigration being such a challenge, where we're forced through finances to think about, you know, how we widen our intake, and that's international students have helped us massively, have brought something fantastic to UK universities in coming to us, and have broadened the diversity of what we are. But, you know, the pressures of finance meant we had to do that as well. So when it's been turned into a political football, immigration around student visas, that's been quite hard, quite challenging. Hopefully we'll see a difference in tone with a new government. Then, of course, because of the finance risks, finance challenges, you know, £9,000 fees have been capped for a long time. And £9,000 10, 12 years ago, £6,000 now, probably even £5,000. So the financial challenges mean, well, what can we do in terms of providing content and doing all the things we want to do as a library, all the exciting things we can do if the finances are tricky, which is why we've looked at getting alternative sources of cash through research projects, through widening participation opportunities. So the challenge culturally and financially are sector-wide. As a library, or as a library sector, clearly the biggest challenge is around how much we pay for content and what publishers offer us and give us, and the challenge of open access there, and changing a model that just does not work for anybody within universities. And I won't go into all the details here, but coming up with a new model, that's really hard, that's really tricky, costs a lot of money. There's a lot of people who can't access material behind paywalls. There's a lot of differences between the university library communities. How do we keep ourselves together and leverage the best value from publishers and try and look towards a different model? So the politics of library content's the biggest challenge we've got.
The same as we just said previously, we're trying to be adapting, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're trying to be at the forefront. And so
it's really hard though when you look at the profits that the publishers make. Why would they want to move away from these models? And the challenge there of we're passionate about open access in libraries, and we're doing a lot in this library around open access monographs as well, books, not just journals. But it's a challenge to change a culture that's been in place, for hundreds of years, and career progressions built around, and do that in a short period of time is hard. But we are flexible, adaptable, but we're also determined as librarians.
Yes, yeah.
And that helps.
Yes, it does. I like that. Yes. So you've had, lots of experience. You've gained lots of experience over the 30 years that you've been in the profession. What would you say is the most important lesson that you've learned?
Probably personally, don't go hard on yourself, because I'm always really hard on myself. And so I've taken that, I've tried to adapt that. So I'm always really conscious of people that I work with might be being really hard on themselves, probably are being really hard on themselves because they care. I always feel the people who are hardest on themselves are often the best people. In many instances, I've had people in my office in tears, not because of something I've done, and they're telling me how terrible they are at their job, and actually I'm sat there going, you're one of the best people I've ever worked with, and that always really upsets me. So I've learned that people can be hard on themselves and work with them to create a culture where they don't feel they have to be hard on themselves. And if things go wrong, so what? Try something different, try it again, not make things harder for people try things. So I suppose that's a big thing. And again, tied to that, probably the thing I've learned, if you forget about all the kind of knowledge you gain through working in any sector, it's about the culture and the behaviours, that the way we behave with each other does change a culture and creates a culture. And from that, you get people working at their best.
I agree. I think we're our own worst critics sometimes, aren't we? And we strive for perfection.
Yeah, we do.
But my new saying is be brave, not perfect.
Yeah. And the perfect is the enemy of the good.
Yes, it is. Because we're striving for something that actually may not exist.
I want you to be brave. I want you to be brave, and I want you to feel if things don't go right, if you fall, I catch you. That's my point about the buck stops with me. If I create a culture where you feel able to experiment and something goes wrong, that's fine. It's me. If you come to me, you know what you're going to get. You're not going to get a kind of, what have you done? You're going to get a, we will solve this. And then you'll feel relaxed. If you feel relaxed and happy in work, you'll feel more effective and be able to get things done. So I think the lesson I've learned is very much work's really important. We're here to do things that our students and researchers need us for, but you can enjoy that and you can get stuff done, but you're only going to get stuff done if it's a fairly relaxed and supportive culture. So I would say the things I've learned are around culture and behaviours, and the role of a director is to be supportive, not some old school head teacher ready to get the cane out if things go wrong.
But things do go wrong, don't they?
Yeah.
And we learn from what's gone wrong, so next time it will be better.
That's right.
And
exactly.
If everything went right all the time, what are we learning?
Exactly, and that's why you try different things and you learn from them. And as a sector, we're very experimental, so we can learn from each other. You can see University of Newcastle are doing this. Well, we can build on that and do that. So I think definitely that in collaboration and partnership is really important to me as well. So what I've learned is not about the knowledge around what the big deal is in terms of content, but about behaviours and how to work with people to get the best out of people. And use, I don't want to be telling everybody what to do. I want to enable people, empower people to be able to tell me what we should do. And get the best from very, very clever, knowledgeable, experienced and passionate people.
Yeah, use the people around you to make.
I don't want 100 people with my faces. I want different people with different skills. 100
Andrews.
I've got a great photograph of me with 100 Andrews.
You'll have to show us.
I will show you it.
You'll have to show us that one. Okay, so being an introvert myself, and I did a little bit of research about this. And there is a little bit of correlation, not loads, but a little bit of correlation in that introverts are morning people, largely because we go to bed early. I'm just wondering, what time of day do you work best?
Morning. Definitely the morning. I'm funny, I mean, I am an extrovert in work, but I don't always feel an extrovert at home. So I think I've maybe created the extrovert me. I think, I mean, you know, I was saying off mic, I went to quite a hard school, and I was from quite I was quite a gentle soul from quite a posh, in terms of Sunderland relative background. So I had to learn to charm so I didn't get beaten up. So I lent into soft skills. So I think I am possibly a bit of an introvert, but you wouldn't really see it. So morning I work the best, definitely. I'm no good on a night. I'm just no good on a night. I never was when I was doing, like, you know, A levels or degrees or anything.
I think a lot of energy, well, for me, I can only speak for me, obviously, but I think as an introvert, a lot of energy is used up. So by, you know, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, I'm like, I've used all that energy now. I'm just going to do emails. It's just...
Yeah, and it's hard, because a lot of my job's talking.
Yes.
And that can be really tiring. So I overdose on other people, I think, because I am an extrovert, really. I mean, that is where I land most of all. But I can feel, you know, so I need to get an injection of other people's energy. But then comes a point where I've definitely had too much, and I need to kind of back away and have time by myself to kind of decompress. Which is why it fits in with my hobbies, which are music, films, and books. You know, I need. They're all quite, to an extent, solitary. Hobbies, and that's very much who I am. You know, I love. I find it harder the older I get because you've got responsibility. But I was never happier than, you know, when 30 years ago when I was kind of finishing my degree and I'd be lying on my bed reading Dickens and listening to a bit of music. I have happy memories of reading The Old Curiosity Shop on my bed and just so relaxed. I forgot how to do that, so I look forward to learning that again when I retire.
I don't think we don't give ourselves time to do that.
And it's very hard technologically these days because you know, I'll pick up my phone every 30 seconds. I'm nervous I've not picked it up in this conversation. What's happened since I've been gone?
Well, the world is still turning.
It does seem to be.
Yeah.
It does seem to be.
Yeah, and you have to remember that, don't you?
You do.
You know, it's not going to stop turning because you're not looked at your phone for 30 seconds.
Absolutely. And what is there? You know, I mean, when I worked in public libraries in Hounslow, I lived in a place called Thames Ditton, and I used to get the bus from Kingston to Hounslow, and that was about an hour's journey there and back. Happiest times of my life, no phones, and I just used to read. I remember the summer of 1999, I mentioned them before, mentioned them again. I read every Dickens novel. If it was now, I'd have looked at a million tweets and not read any Dickens novels. I've personally lost something from the shift to always being on, and I know mentally I'm not at my best if I'm not reading and I haven't read a lot of books. I need to do that. So there's clearly something about needing to recharge through being on my own.
Yeah, that's solitary.
That's quite a personal journey there, wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
I'm very open, if nothing else. Ask me anything, I'll answer honestly.
Oh yeah, you and me both. So last question.
Yeah.
So apart from the career that you're in right now, what occupation would you like to try?
Well, when I retire, I'm going to become a Flâneur, which I'll explain in a minute, which for people maybe who haven't come across that term. But I think clearly what I would have liked is to do something around. I probably would have liked to have written for the music press, I think. Although that's a great example of I would never have thought that when I was younger that I could have or have done so. I think I'd have been quite good on radio as well. I mean, not a kind of Terry Wogan like.
I think you'd be good on radio.
Yeah, I enjoy it. You know, I do enjoy it. And I can talk, but I'd have enjoyed a kind of evening on Six Music, playing odds and sods from kind of 1970s independent labels, 1980s independent labels to jazz. I really would have enjoyed that because I love the history of music, not just playing it. So I think I would have definitely wanted to do something. I suppose. Actually, we were talking about how I've never come across anybody I don't like from Wigan. A great Wiganite who I would like to have been is Stuart McConey. Oh. So Stuart McConey started writing for The Enemy. I loved his writing for The Enemy, New Musical Express when I was young. And then he did great programs on Radio 2, critical list about great records that were LPs that were a bit hidden. And then he did his Six Music. So what he does is exactly what I love. And I've met him a couple of times, and he's a really great character. So that's probably what I would have liked to have done if I'd thought about it. But I love what I do, so I feel very fortunate. It's given me things that I never would have imagined. You know, working with great people, touring the world. I've been everywhere thanks to the libraries. Who'd have thought that would happen?
Who'd have thought?
Exactly. But when I retired, the idea of being a Flâneur, so I like the idea of just going for lots of walks, having coffee, just laid back, reading books in cafes. I might take up smoking gitans. I probably won't, but I might. And sitting outside cafes, going for walks, posing, dressed in nice clothes, and just reading intelligent novels and posing as an old man. That's what I want to do.
Old man.
A Flâneur.
A Flâneur. I think I'd quite like to be a Flâneur, but do you have to be a man? Can you be?
No, I'm sure. No, you don't. I'm sure maybe it's I don't know whether there's an extra E or something in a Flâneur for female. But no, you don't have to be. I suspect, generalising massively, that women generally too focused and men are too lazy. So that's why we're better at being Flâneurs.
Oh, I don't know. I'm quite looking forward to those
maybe
days.
We can Flâneur together in
We can
retirement.
Flâneur together.
Yeah. I'll find a nice cafe in Wigan and we can just sit there and read Camus or somebody.
So the Wigan reference, guys, if you've not noticed, is that I'm from Wigan. That's the accent. That's the
like all the greats. George, I'm a big fan of George Formby.
Big fan of George Formby.
You love George Formby.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Andrew.
I hope that was useful.
It was very useful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Please check out our other episodes of the podcast, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks a lot, Louise. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.